Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're jumping right into the incredible ways businesses use technology to build, adapt, and sometimes completely reinvent themselves. We're going to go on a journey from these really rigid, old-school blueprints to the kind of tech that's, well, rewriting all the rules. So, let's kick things off with a big central question. Just think about a huge global company, a bank, an airline, you name it. They have these massive, sprawling systems that all have to talk to each other. How on earth do they build that kind of thing without it all just descending into absolute chaos?
Well, for a very long time, the answer has been to lean on a classic blueprint. A really structured, methodical way of doing things that makes sure every single piece is planned out and built just right.
And that blueprint has a name, the Systems Development Lifecycle, or SDLC for short. The best way to think of it is like the master plan an architect uses to build a skyscraper. It is all about management, control, and making absolutely sure that the thing you end up with is exactly the thing you planned from the start.
Now, the key thing to get about the SDLC is that it's not just a straight line from A to B. It's actually a continuous loop. You see it here. A system gets planned, built, and launched, sure, but then it goes into this constant cycle of maintenance and improvement, and that often leads you right back to the beginning, ready to start a whole new project to upgrade it. It's a living thing.
So the SDLC works by breaking down all that complexity into 7 clean steps. It all kicks off with planning, just figuring out if the idea is even possible. Then you nail down the requirements. After that, you get to the design phase, the actual blueprint, before a single line of code is written. Then comes the build, followed by just relentless testing to squash all the bugs. And only then do you roll it out and start maintaining it. Every step is like a gate you have to pass through, which gives you incredible quality and control.
Okay, so we've got our solid, reliable blueprint. But let's be honest, we always want things to be faster, right? More efficient, and a whole lot smarter. And this is where the automation upgrade comes in.
Now, something that trips a lot of people up is the difference between RPA, robotic process automation, and AI, artificial intelligence. The easiest way to wrap your head around it is this. RPA mimics human actions. It's basically a really smart robot following a script, perfect for repetitive stuff like data entry. AI, on the other hand, imitates human reasoning. It doesn't just follow a script, it can actually learn, understand, and make some pretty complex decisions on its own.
And that ability to reason, it's a total game changer. For a business, AI can automate all that tedious data entry. And because it's learning, it gets amazing at spotting weird things in reports that a human might miss. Get this, it can review 100% of documents for fraud, something a human team could never, ever do. And of course, it doesn't need coffee breaks, it just works 24/7.
So we've seen the blueprint, and we've seen the upgrade. But now we get to the really exciting part. We're moving into a full-blown revolution. We're talking about tech that doesn't just make the old ways better, it creates entirely new ways of building things. Let's start with a little analogy for cloud computing. For decades, if your company needed serious computer power, you had to build your own server rooms, basically your own digital factory. It was expensive and complicated, but the cloud changed everything. Why would you build your own factory from scratch when you can just rent access to a world-class one whenever you need?
And you can rent different parts of that factory. IaaS is like renting the empty building and the heavy machinery. PaaS gives you all that, plus the specialized tools you need to make your own stuff. But SaaS is the simplest one. That's like just subscribing to the finished product that comes out of the factory. Think Dropbox or Gmail. You don't have to build a thing.
Okay, deep breath here because we're shifting gears to something even more fundamental. We're about to talk about a technology that challenges our basic ideas about trust and who's in control. We are talking about blockchain.
So let's just strip away all the hype. At its absolute heart, a blockchain is really just a digital record book. You can think of it as a ledger. But here's where the magic happens. Unlike a company's private books, this ledger is public, and it's shared with thousands of computers across a network. No single person, no single company is in charge. And every single time a new transaction occurs, it's recorded as a new block, which is then permanently linked to the one before it. This creates a chain of events that is basically impossible to break or change.
You know, the absolute best way to make this click is to think about a shared Google Doc. Everyone with access can see all the changes happening in real time, right? And everyone always has the most up-to-date version. You can't just secretly delete a paragraph, because everyone else's copy would instantly show that something's wrong. That is the core idea behind blockchain's trust and transparency.
And that shared, distributed nature is what makes it so incredibly secure. For a hacker to fake a transaction, they wouldn't just have to break into one computer. They'd have to gain control of more than half of all the computers in the entire network. We're talking potentially thousands of them all at the exact same time. It's practically impossible.
So, wow. We've gone from this highly controlled, centralized blueprint all the way to a distributed, revolutionary new way of thinking. Let's pull this all together and just take a look at what this whole evolution means.
So let's recap the journey we just went on. We started with the foundation, that classic SDLC that gives businesses structure and control. Then we saw the upgrade. RPA and AI came along and added a layer of speed and intelligence. And finally, we hit the revolution. Technologies like the cloud and blockchain that are creating completely new ways to think about infrastructure and trust itself.
And that leaves us with one final thought. We've traced this path from the superstructured to the radically decentralized. So the question for you isn't if this stuff is going to have an impact, but how. As you look at your own world, your job, your industry, which one of these technologies do you think is going to be the next big game changer for you?